Welcome, everybody. Thank you for your time. The book that I'm reviewing is called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. The tagline that he uses to sell his book is the book that makes marketing easy. And what I took away from the book is that it really teaches you how your brand fits into your customer story. So what is this book about? Well, this book is about two things. Number one, why customers don't care about your marketing. And number two, what you can do to fix it. And using the framework that the author suggests, I'm going to use Thrive themes as an example to show what the author is recommending, essentially. And just as a friendly disclaimer, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the Thrive themes marketing, simply using it as an example because I've been studying it recently. So let's dive in. The first part of the presentation, why customers don't care about your marketing. Well, every person or potential customer in the world sees the world through their own eyes. What this means is when we look up to the sky with our hopes, dreams, and aspirations, we all think, what could I become? What could I be? But at the same time, we all have our fears, doubts, and anxieties that cripple us. They hold us in place and prevent us from moving forward. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that these are the thoughts that we have every day of our lives, meaning that every day when we wake up, our world literally revolves around ourselves. So for example, when Dean woke up this morning, his thoughts were most likely, okay, what do I got to do? I got to pick a hairstyle. I got to brush my teeth. I got to shower. I got to get to work. Got the call later. And then when Ryan woke up this morning, his immediate thoughts were definitely not, okay, does Dean need to shower? Does Dean need to brush? Right? Ryan's morning probably looked like, okay, I'm all showered up. I brushed my teeth and I'm dressed. Look at myself in the mirror. Fuck yeah, let's get it on. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is in the story of your life, you are the hero. And the biggest mistake, the hero has two goals before I talk about mistakes. The first goal is to get from point A to point B. And the second goal is to avoid failure, which is represented by ghetto fire down there. The biggest mistake that brands make is that they position themselves as the hero of their customer story. And the effect that this has is it puts the customer in competition with the brand for who gets to be the hero of the story. And this really confuses customers. So what ends up happening is customers are way too busy with their own lives and they just don't have time to care or compete with a branding or messaging. A brand's marketing or messaging. So what they do is they tune the brand out itself. Now, I want you to think of it like this. Imagine that your customer is a hitchhiker. Now, this hitchhiker, the only thing she cares about is whether you can take her to where she wants to go. And what most businesses do, or most brands do, is they pull up looking all suave and sexy. And then they start talking and they say, here's my mission statement. My grandfather built this car with his bare hands in 1934. We have been in business for over 3 generations and blah, 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 blah. Basically, what brands don't do is answer their customers one burning question. The only thing she wants to know is, yes, I can take you there, or no, I can't. Instead, brands throw irrelevant information at their customers. And since the message is irrelevant, customers ignore it. And there's a really good quote that the author uses over and over again. And he says, if you confuse, you lose. So basically, anytime in your marketing or messaging, anytime you're speaking to someone or a customer, if you confuse that customer, you have lost that customer. So now that we know why customers don't listen or don't care about marketing, let's take a look at what we can do to fix it. The author of the book, or Donald Miller, recommends that we, or brands, create their marketing messaging using the StoryBrand 7 framework, or the SB7 framework. Well, what is the SB7 framework? It's essentially the hero's journey. And this is what it looks like. It starts with a character who has a problem, meets a guide, who gives them a plan, calls them to action, and it ends in 2 parts, success and avoiding failure. So putting this entire script together, or this entire messaging together, the author calls it creating your StoryBrand script. And what I want to do here is, before I say that, your StoryBrand script. And this is the worksheet that the author provides for you to fill it up and to visualize your story brand. And what I want to do here is use Thrive themes as an example to build a story brand so we can kind of see the hero's journey as it relates to Thrive themes. So let's begin. It starts with a character. Now, if we learned, the one thing that we learned from the first part of this presentation is that our customer is the hero of the story, not our brand. So for the purposes of this presentation, I've picked the digital nomad or the solopreneur as the hero of the story, as our customer. So looking at our StoryBrand script, the first section, once we decide a customer, there's only one question to answer, which is what do they want? And digital nomads and solopreneurs, these sort of guys, their entire life is funded by the income they make off of their websites. So I would say that they want websites that get more leads and sales, because the more sales they can make, the more they're able to live the life that they have chosen to live. So moving along the story, now our customer or our hero has a problem. And the problem in any story comes from the villain. The villain in our case is WordPress plugins. And if you're confused why, this is because I've been studying the Thrive Themes marketing material recently, and this is my conclusion. I may be wrong, but for the purpose of this example, I'm going to assume that it's WordPress plugins. The villain is the one who creates problems for our heroes. And there are three levels of problems that our customers face. There are external problems, internal problems, and philosophical problems. Now, the author argues that if we can combine all three of these problems and provide resolutions to them in our marketing messaging, we do more than just sell a solution. We actually connect with our customers. So let's take a look at these problems. The external problems. These are the simplest ones, and these are the ones that everybody's marketing messaging appeals to. So these are the physical, tangible problems that our hero must overcome to save the day. So in our example, physical, tangible problems caused by WordPress plugins can be, the website breaking, plugins not working with each other. You install a new plugin, it breaks the other one, or updating one plugin just breaks the website now. Now your website is not running. So these are all the physical, real world problems that our customers face. The second level of problems that they face are the internal problems. Now, these are the problems that are the doubts and fears that are caused by these external problems. I want to spend a quick minute on these internal problems because the author, Donald Miller, he argues that once Apple figured out the internal problems that their customers were experiencing, it is only then that they achieved their astronomical success. So the quick story that he gives is back in 1983, when Steve Jobs released, or Apple released the computer Lisa, Steve Jobs took out a 9-page advertisement in the New York Times. And in that advertisement, he mentioned everything from the make, model, freaking hardware, how much RAM, every single thing you could possibly imagine about the hardware and specs of the computer were in that 9-page advertisement. And the result of that was that the company pretty much tanked. And it wasn't until Steve Jobs realized that his customers, or people in general, didn't care about the tech talk or the specs or the hardware specs or anything like that. And once he realized that, that's where their slogans "Think Different" came from. And that's where ads like the Mac versus PC ads came from. So these ads are super powerful because if you take a look at the guy on the right, which is Mac, hip looking dude, dressed relatively chill, looks cool. In all the ads, all he does is he just wants to listen to music. He wants to take pictures. He wants to write a book. He's just doing creative things. And anytime PC starts talking, he's always talking about gigahertz and megahertz and this hertz and RAM and specs and all this bullshit that nobody really cares about. So what Steve Jobs had really identified was that his audience or his market was feeling intimidated by technology, and they just wanted tools that helped them achieve what they wanted to achieve. Most people didn't care about the hardware specs. So what are some internal problems that our digital nomads, or the hero of our story, would be experiencing? Well, the first one is they don't know how to code. Now, it's not necessarily a problem, but it's a problem because it's a lack in the person. They don't know how to code. That's why they're buying all these plugins and stuff. And number two, they don't want to learn how to code. How excited is a business person to sit down and learn how to code all day long? And number three, this one I'm kind of deriving as a frustration. They feel stupid or inadequate because they can't make it work. So it feels like, or because they can't make it work. It's like, am I good enough? Can I even do this? But these are frustrations internally that come up from not being able to achieve something externally out in the world. Now, the third kind of problems are the philosophical problems. These ones are actually my favorite because these deal with the question, why? Why does our customer's story matter in the overall epic of humanity? It's the classic good versus evil concept. What is the good that our customer, our hero, represents and stands for versus what is the evil that our customer, our hero, stands against? So some philosophical problems of digital nomads that I can think of, well, to be fair, I've been able to boil it down to one word, and I believe this to be true. I think it's all about freedom. Freedom of time and location, and freedom from the system, freedom from the shackles of their 9 to 5, freedom from they're fighting against a rigid corporate structure that impose something on you that you don't want to do. They're taking away your freedom. That's what I would say is the philosophical standpoint of digital nomads. So filling out our StoryBrand script over here, in the villain section, we have our WordPress plugins. The internal problems are feelings of inadequacy and am I good enough? The external problems are WordPress plugins breaking my website, and the philosophical standpoint relates to their freedom. The next stage is now our hero meets a guide. Now, every hero is essentially looking for a guide. So it's a guide that equips the hero with the tools and knowledge that he needs to win the day. In any movie that you watch or in any story, it's often the guide who is the most powerful character in the story, but he's not the main reason for the story. He's not the hero of the story. The guide is only there to help the hero overcome his challenges. So for example, Gandalf to Frodo, or Master Yoda to Luke Skywalker. Like over here, Master Yoda is the most powerful Jedi alive, but the story revolves around Luke Skywalker, who spends most of the story feeling, oh my God, can I even do this? Am I good enough? I don't know how to fight. How am I ever going to learn? But Master Yoda is there to teach him, right? Master Yoda, being the strongest character in the movie, is not the hero of the movie. This is where our brand comes into our customer story. Our brand is the Gandalf to our hero's Frodo, and the Yoda to our hero's Luke Skywalker. And there are two things that a brand must communicate to position themselves as the guide. Number one, express empathy. Show the customer that we understand their problems and relate to them. See, when we're expressing empathy, what we're essentially doing is we're talking about our customers' problems as opposed to talking about ourselves. Outward empathy. And the second thing is to demonstrate authority. So show the customer that we actually know what we're talking about. And this can be done through stats and testimonials and awards that you've won for doing an excellent job. Anything that gives an instant stamp of authority. So filling out the next section of our story brand with empathy and authority. Empathy, if we were to be talking to our hero, yeah, I agree. WordPress plugins suck. They keep crashing your website. That person would immediately feel, yes, someone who understands me. And then authority. It's like, oh, by the way, I've helped like 10,000 plus customers or people or heroes just like you solve this problem. And look at the thousands of them that have given me 5-star reviews. That immediately provides that, stamp of authority that our hero is looking for. We are now the guide. Now, the guide is the person who gives them a plan. Now, this part is actually pretty simple. There are two types of plans. There's the process plan and there's the agreement plan. Let's talk about the process plan. See, the longest click on the internet is that buy now click. People will sit there, sometimes for hours, just hovering that mouse around that buy now button thinking, should I do it? Should I not do it? See, what they're really experiencing and what they're really feeling is this. It's like sitting at the edge of a cliff and looking down and thinking, holy shit, is this going to work? What if it doesn't work? What if I'm wrong? Oh my God, what will I do? What's basically happening, and the reason why this is happening, is because of confusion and doubt around whether this will work or not and what to do. This is where the process plan comes in. It's designed to remove this confusion, to help our customer take that leap of faith, to hold their hand through the process and guide them through it every step of the way so they don't feel alone, essentially. So the process plan for Thrive Themes could look like, number one, create your Thrive Themes account. Number two, place your order. Number three, check your email for instructions on how to set up Thrive Themes on your website. Now, What the process plan is doing is it's taking our customer from pre-purchase to post-purchase. It's that hand-holding along the way that is accomplished by the process plan. Now, the second plan is the agreement plan. Now, this one is really fun. I really like this one. It's because the agreement plan is your company's values. What does your company stand for? What do you believe in? Now, I believe, and what I've learned from Shane, is I think Thrive Themes represents that they believe small-scale entrepreneurship is a force for good in the world. I've heard Shane say this in a couple of videos, and that's what I think their agreement plan is. The purpose of this agreement plan is not anything tangible, but what it actually does is it deepens the bond between customer and brand. So for example, small-scale entrepreneurship, digital nomads, is a force for good in the world. And this ties in with their philosophy. They believe that by living this life and choosing this lifestyle, they are doing good in the world. It adds to that philosophical connection and further strengthens the bond. So let's fill this out. Pretty simple. The process plan was 3 steps to place the order. And the agreement plan is entrepreneurship is a force for good. The guide and the hero both agree on that statement. And then calls them to action. So this is one area where I thought the author did not do a good job in explaining how this ties into the hero story. And the reason is because this step seems to be entirely focused on the guide itself. So what I took away from this step was always be closing. Essentially what the author is telling us as the guide, as the brand to do. Because what he says is that customers, they can't read our minds. They don't know that we want them to buy. So we have to have clear, focused call to actions and repeat them often. Now, an example of this is already on the Thrive Themes landing page. I've circled or I've highlighted all the calls to actions in red. Each and every single one of them says become a Thrive Themes member. It's one clear call to action repeated across the land. So if we fill this out, there are 2 types of calls to actions, and I didn't go into it because I think based on the audience that I'm speaking to, it's very, you guys will pick it up like this. A direct call to action is something like buy now or become a member. And a transitional call to action is something that takes a non-customer and moves them one step closer to being a customer. So for example, somebody signing up for a free PDF report or some kind of content in exchange for their email. Now, once you have their email, they're one step further in your buying process. You can reach out to them, call them, etc. The last stage of our hero's journey has 2 parts. 1, it ends in success, and 2, it helps them avoid failure. So just to drive that point home, the hero has 2 goals. 1, to achieve success, and 2, to avoid failure. People are motivated by loss aversion. I don't know if you guys remember Shane's story about losing $10 versus gaining $10. So that loss of $10 is feels so much worse, and that is a stronger motivator than what you could gain. So every story, any story really, has to have stakes. What we're really doing in this scenario is we're reminding our customer, our hero, what is the cost of not doing business with us? So if we take a look at our boy over here climbing this mountain, I would argue that this person or this guy is incredibly motivated by loss aversion because, well, look at him. He's climbing a goddamn mountain without any ropes or harnesses. The slightest failure, the slightest mishap or screw up or any mistake is imminent death. Now, luckily, that's not the case with our heroes and our customers. So what are some negative outcomes that our heroes are trying to avoid? Well, number 1, we discussed this last time a little while ago, losing business because their website crashed. Their entire lifestyle is funded by their website. So if their website crashes and they're losing business, they're losing money, they're losing business. So that's the number 1 negative thing they're trying to avoid. Number 2, they're unable to track and improve sales pages. So this is a negative thing they're trying to avoid because what they want is they want to be able to improve and get more sales. And the answer cannot be just to pour and pump more money in their marketing. There has to be ways they can track and improve how well their sales pages, landing pages are converting. And number 3, they're just sick and tired of spending thousands of dollars on developers and web designers that take forever to make any changes. The other half of this coin, or the flip side of this coin, is our hero's final goal is to achieve success. We discussed the negative outcomes that our hero's trying to avoid. So let's talk about the positive outcomes our hero's trying to achieve. So number one, a conversion-focused website that doesn't break. Is it too much to ask for a website that just works? And number two, A/B split testing to improve conversions. Finally, an answer to not having to pump more money into marketing, but actually optimizing your current ad spend in your marketing budgets. And number three, they want to grow their business online while keeping costs low. Now, filling out the ending section, the success criteria and the failure criteria. So under the success criteria, they want a conversion-focused website, the ability to do A/B split testing and grow their online business. And the things that they're avoiding in the avoid failure section is losing business, not being able to improve sales, and spending truckloads of money on developers and web designers and so on. So you're probably noticing that on the screen that even though our hero's journey is done, there's still one more section remaining. It's the character transformation section. See, what this basically is doing is, in this section, we're summarizing where our hero was and where we have taken them to. So when our hero started out, all he wanted was a website that got him more leads and sales. And what he's ending up as is an online business owner with an actual legitimate business. See, it's that transformation. This transformation is about changing the lives of customers. And great brands, they freaking obsess about the transformation of their customers. And I would argue that Thrive Themes is actually one of those great brands, because that's why they have things like Thrive University. I mean, this is content purely dedicated to teaching people how to grow your list, increase conversions, create funnels, write better copy. All these things that Thrive Themes is teaching for free, providing tools for free. These are tools that help our hero go from being a digital nomad to a fully fledged online business owner. This transformation is the conclusion of our heroes, and us as the guide, it is our job to help the customers achieve it. To sum up everything in 2 sentences, number one, our customer is the hero of the story, not our brand. So if we make our marketing messages relevant to our customer, they will listen. And number two, our brand is the guide the hero has been looking for. It is our job to help our hero climb the mountain, achieve the goal that they're after and get from point A to point B. And, taking it one step further, if I could summarize what this book is trying to say in one sentence, I would actually like to leave you with this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes by Dr. Stephen Covey. And it is, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Because that is the essence of empathy. And that's what the author says. Be empathetic in your marketing, think of your customer first, and focus on them and their transformation. Thank you for your time.